can I firstly ask you about the situation with President Biden? How worried are you about instability? And do you think President Biden is capable of serving the last 6 months in office? And if I may, about skills, when will you deliver results? You've talked about this not being easy, but when can people expect to see enough domestic workers to bring down migration? Is it a year, 2 years, longer?
Nick, firstly on President Biden, can I first say, given that we're here at this air show, how much President Biden cares about defence and security, has made that central to his leadership. And of course, he led us through the NATO Council just 10 days or so ago, a really important NATO summit, a bigger NATO, a stronger NATO, and a NATO with real resolve. I respect the decision that he has now made. Not an easy decision, but a decision that I know that he will have arrived at, taking into account the best interests of the American people. And I look forward to working with him for the remainder of his presidency. In relation to skills, look, there's no quick fix on this, but on skills, we do know what is needed. That's why Skills England has been set up. That's why we're going to change the levy, because we've listened good and hard to what people in this room have said to me about the levy having some good aspects but not working as well as it should. We can change that straight away, and making sure that we've got the right skills in the right place. That is about bringing businesses, political leaders and others together, the training providers in their area to provide the skills that are going to be needed. So I'm not going to put an arbitrary date on this, but I'm absolutely determined that we will get the skills that we need in the areas that we need them. It's been a long time problem. We know that. It's been years and years we've been talking about this. But I'm very pleased that in what will become week 3 of the Labour government, we're already taking the early steps to fix this problem. Thank you, Nick. I've got Harry from ITV. Harry.
Good morning, Prime Minister. Your Education Secretary this morning has said that your government will consider scrapping the 2-child benefit cap. Is she right? And then on the US, Vice President Kamala Harris is now the frontrunner to be the Democratic nominee. Have you met her before? What's your relationship like with her? What do you think of her?
Look, in relation to poverty, what the Education Secretary said this morning, I agree with, which is she's passionate about tackling poverty and child poverty in particular. She spoke very powerfully this morning because she speaks as a woman who grew up in poverty. Everybody who knows her background knows how hard it was for her. So that's why I'm very pleased that she's one of the chairs of our task force on tackling child poverty. And we will make sure that the strategy covers all the bases to drive down child poverty. No child should grow up in poverty. The last Labour government did a huge amount of work on this with a very good strategy. I intend that we will do the same with the same commitment and passion. And I'm very, very pleased that the Education Secretary is one of the leaders of that role. In relation to the future, now President Biden is stepping down. Obviously, in the first instance, it's for the Democratic Party to decide who they want to put forward. It is then for the American people to decide who they want as their president. My approach will be to respect that decision-making and to be clear that we will work with whoever the American people elect into office, as you would expect, particularly given the nature of the special relationship between our two countries, forged in difficult circumstances, endured for years, and very important to me and very important to all American presidents. Thank you very much. Sam from Sky.
Prime Minister, given not just President Biden's announcement last night, but really the events in the US over the last fortnight, which at times have beggared belief, is the US really the dependable, reliable ally it once was? And you're saying this morning that you want to improve skills training to get British jobs for British workers effectively, but of those seeking work, almost half come from India, coming from India or Nigeria, most commonly to work in the health and social care sector. Isn't it pay, not skills, that's going to make the difference here? And how should we judge you at the impact of your skills policy on migration? Is there a metric we can follow to show success?
Sam, in relation to the first part of your question, yes, of course, the US is a reliable and trusted ally, has been for many, many years. And you could see that in the NATO Council just 10 days or so ago, because we are all clear that we face an increasingly insecure world. I think we're all clear at the value of NATO and the role that NATO needs to play now, as important now as it was when it was created, in my view. And the Americans hosted the council, drove through with President Biden the leadership of that council, and it was a great success. So at the end of the 2 days, not only was it the first NATO council with as many members as were around the table in terms of the countries there present, stronger in its resolve, particularly on Ukraine. President Zelensky claimed and said it was clear in his mind it was a success in terms of the support for Ukraine at this critical moment. And I felt very strong. The resolve of NATO was as strong as I've ever known it. And so that is the direct evidence, if you like, of the reliability of that partnership. And the special relationship is very important to us. I had the chance to talk to President Biden about the importance of the relationship, and both of us expressed how important it is to both of our countries. In relation to skills, look, we're setting up Skills England, which will look at the interrelationship between migration and skills. I'm absolutely clear that we need to get that balance right, and everybody needs to play their part. We shouldn't have as high a level of migration as we do simply because we haven't got a skill strategy that works. That's not common sense, and we need to change it. An element of that will be about pay, of course, and social care would be an example, the example you give. And that's why the first of our fair pay agreements will be in that sector to ensure that we tackle that issue of social care. But it'll be more than one aspect here. It'll have to be across the board strategy. Thank you very much, Sam. I've got Dave from the Mirror.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Dave Bate from the Daily Mirror here. Are you prepared to sign off on above-inflation pay rises for million and public sector workers as recommended by the independent boards? Do you think 5.5% is realistic, and what do you think the dangers are of not doing so?
Well, let me start by saying how much I respect the contribution that public sector workers make to our economy. And I think it's very important to start with that basic respect and thanks. We will take a sensible approach. We will consider the recommendations and make an announcement in due course. As I think you know, the Chancellor is doing a full analysis of the financial constraints and challenges, and be making announcements in due course in relation to this. Thank you very much. I've got Max from the Times.
Scores of MPs from your party have called on you to scrap the two-child benefit cap. You've said it's a tough decision that you don't take lightly, but is there a split in your party, and will you seriously consider their demands?
I'm not surprised that there's a real passion about this in the Labour Party. You'd expect there to be. Child poverty is something that we need to eradicate. And there's a very strong feeling in the Labour Party and Labour movement about that. That is precisely why I set up the task force to tackle child poverty. There is no silver bullet. If there was a silver bullet, it had been shot a very long time ago. It's a complicated set of factors that I know and I can see every day in my own constituency, to do with pay, to do with benefits, to do with work, to do with housing, to do with education, to do with health. And that is why you need a strategy to deal with it, which is why we set up, a very strongly chaired body to drive forward that work. So I'm not surprised we're having a debate about it. It's good that we're having a debate about it. What matters is that we turn that into action and reduce child poverty, which is what I'm determined that we will do. Harry from The Sun.
Yes. Good morning, Prime Minister. Thank you. Harry Cole from The Sun. You say you're here to listen to industry. Can you confirm then whether or not the Global Combat Air Programme is on the table as part of your defence review? Or can you reassure some very nervous-looking people in this room that you will never abandon the Tempest project? And on migration, can you pledge that you will also not undo the changes the previous government made earlier this year on student dependence, despite pressure from the university sector to unpick some of those changes, given their forecast to lead to a fall in legal migration this year?
Yeah, Harry, let me first deal with the programme because, look, it is an important programme and I know that people in the room will want to hear me say that. It's a programme on which we're making significant progress, in my view, and the Defence Secretary is holding a ministerial level meeting, I think next week, in relation to this because of the significant benefits here in this country. So that's my attitude to it. There is, of course, a review going on, but it's important for me to put on record just how important a programme this is. In relation to migration, look, we understand the pressures on migration and why the previous government took the decisions that it did. It has led to some pressures now in relation to higher education. But it is right that we get migration down. It's too high. That's why we have announced today Skills England will be working on this issue to make sure that we've got the skills in place to bring those levels down. That is not to say that no business should ever be hiring from abroad. That is not realistic, is not good for business, and we wouldn't want to go down that path. But for too long, that's happened because we haven't had the skills available in this country, and I'm determined we will change that. And I think we got from The Guardian, Eleni.
Thanks. Eleni Correa from The Guardian. Another question, Prime Minister, on public sector pay rises. Do you agree with your Chancellor that there is a cost to not reaching a settlement in terms of strikes?
Yes, I do. And I think that's an important consideration when we come to a final view, which we will announce. There is a cost. There's a cost that's measured in the pounds and pence lost to the economy through industrial action. And there's a cost to the other work that we need to do in relation to the public services that we need to deliver. And that has to be taken account of as we come to a final decision in relation to the pay issue, which we will do and obviously announce with full reasoning in due course. Thank you all very much indeed. Thank you for letting me make my remarks. Thank you for listening and have a very productive time at a very